On this episode of Searching for History, we're going to take another look at Goslar Germany. This time we're going to take a closer look at the Kaiserpfalz. The Kaiserpfalz is an imperial palace complex. Understanding a little bit about the Holy Roman Empire will help in understanding the Kaiserpfalz. Soon after being elected Holy Roman Emperor, Conrad II spent Christmas in Goslar in 1024, and the next year started to lay the foundations of the Kaiserpfalz. In the early 11th century, the palace was known as the most famous residence in the Holy Roman Empire. The last Holy Roman Emperor to reside at the palace was in 1253, and after that, the palace slowly became a ruin. Reconstruction of the Kaiserpfalz started in 1868 and was completed in 1879. What is the Holy Roman Empire? And to start with, it's not very Roman. The only real connection between the Holy Roman Empire and the Roman Empire is the Catholic Church and the fact that the Pope ordained the Holy Roman Emperor. But other than that, there is no true connection. On Christmas Day in the year 800, the Pope crowned the Frankish king Charlemagne as Holy Roman Emperor. An interesting part about the Holy Roman Empire is becoming emperor isn't hereditary. In fact, to become the emperor, you're elected emperor by an electoral college. The emperor was elected by mostly German prince electors, a peer group of equals, Catholic rulers, monarchs. They would elect from amongst themselves the next emperor. The number of electors changed over the history of the empire. In the Middle Ages, there was 7. By the post-medieval era, there were 9. And then for a few years during the Napoleonic era, there were 11 electors. The Holy Roman Empire was a Western, Central European empire of mostly German-speaking kingdoms. It developed in the early Middle Ages and continued for 1,000 years until its dissolution in 1806 by Napoleon Bonaparte. Today, the Kaiserpfalz is composed of 2 surviving structures that were once part of a larger palace complex. These are the Kaiserhaus and the Cathedral Porch. Inside the Kaiserhaus is the Kaisersaal, or Imperial Hall. It's a very grand open space, a very large hall with paintings on the walls, and today it's often used for concerts. Below the Imperial Hall are the museum vaults, and the museum vaults mainly contain various stone artifacts. I think they're what was discovered through archaeological excavations of the larger palace complex. So what you have are, ornate stone columns, various features that probably faced some of these buildings, and even religious iconography, such as the hand holding up 2 fingers, which I believe represents Christ's blessing. On the west end, attached to the Kaiserhaus, is the Chapel of St. Ulrich. This chapel is 2 stories with a balcony above, and you look down at the ground floor where there's a sarcophagus in the center. The sarcophagus has a slab on the top dating to the 13th century, and the slab incorporates a life-size figure of the Holy Roman Emperor Henry III. The emperor's head lays on a pillow, a dog lying at his feet. There's a scepter in his right hand, and his left hand holds a church. The sarcophagus holds the heart of Henry III, and his heart was interred in Goslar by his own request. So going back to the Cathedral Porch, this cathedral, the Goslar Cathedral, was formerly known as the Collegiate Church of St. Simon and St. Jude. Around the year 1150, the porch was added to the front of the cathedral. This porch is all that remains of the cathedral today. Inside the cathedral porch is a replica of the imperial throne, or Kaiserstuhl. It was originally located in the cathedral. The actual Kaiserstuhl today is in the museum vaults in the Kaiserhaus. When talking about the Kaiserpfalz, it would be remiss to not have a discussion on propaganda. The use of the Kaiserpfalz for propaganda began after the Franco-Prussian War of 1870. To give a little background, Napoleon III, the nephew of Napoleon I, determined to reassert France's dominance in Europe. In doing so, France mobilized its forces to move against the North German Confederation, which was a confederation of the German kingdoms under Prussia. France declared war on Prussia and the German Confederation and invaded German territory. In response, Prussia and the North German Confederation quickly outmaneuvered the French forces, and after a series of victories, they laid siege to Paris. And the siege finally ended with victory over France, so with France defeated. This culminated with, on January 18th, 1871, the German kings, princes, and senior military commanders, while inside the Hall of Mirrors in the Palace of Versailles, proclaimed Wilhelm I the German emperor. At the Kaiserpfalz, there's a propaganda message that can be seen in two equestrian statues. One is the statue of Wilhelm I, and the other is the statue of Kaiser Barbarossa. This symbology creates a connection where Kaiser Wilhelm I is the fulfillment of a legend where Kaiser Barbarossa would one day return. Also inside the Kaiserhaus, in the Kaisersaal, the Imperial Hall, there's a painting of the prince waking up Sleeping Beauty, so this is a German legend, and they've propagandized it where Wilhelm I represents the prince and Sleeping Beauty is the German Reich, the German Empire. And so Wilhelm I kisses Sleeping Beauty and wakes up the German Empire. There's other examples in Germany of Kaiser Wilhelm I monuments. One example is the Kyffhäuser monument. It's a very large monument built on top of what are called the Kyffhäuser Mountains. After the death of Wilhelm I in 1888, memorials were built all around the German Empire. His grandson, Wilhelm II, desired to create a nationalist cult around the founder of the German Reich. So he's very supportive of the creation of these monuments. The Kyffhäuser monument, I believe, was sponsored by Wilhelm II, but private funds were used to actually construct it. A large portion of these funds came from donations by veterans of the Franco-Prussian War. The placement of this monument on top of the Kyffhäuser mountain is not by chance. There's actually a legend where Kaiser Friedrich I Barbarossa actually is sleeping under the mountain. Barbarossa went on a crusade, back in the Middle Ages, but never returned. And so there's a mystery about, what happened to the Kaiser. And this mystery grew over the years to that he's asleep under this mountain. And every 100 years, he sends one of his dwarf attendants outside to look and see if ravens are still circling the mountain. And if so, he goes back to sleep, and then 100 years later, sends another dwarf out and repeats the cycle. In the end, one of these days, the dwarf will go out, there'll be no more ravens circling, and at that time, the Kaiser Barbarossa will leave the mountain and go out and save the German Empire. Additionally, the monument also exists amongst the ruins of a medieval imperial castle that was built around 1000 AD and reached its maximum extent during the reign of Kaiser Friedrich I Barbarossa. And it's believed that Barbarossa actually spent time at this castle. Between the legend and the castle itself is the reason why this location was chosen for the construction of the monument. There's another good example of a Kaiser Wilhelm I monument. This is the Deutsches Eck, or German Corner. It's actually located at the confluence of the Mosel and the Rhine rivers. The merging of these two rivers is symbolic of the unification of the German nation. At the Deutsches Eck is a large equestrian statue of Wilhelm I. This statue was erected in 1897 in appreciation of Wilhelm I's role in the unification of Germany. That was our video on the Kaiserpfalz. If you ever go to Goslar, I highly recommend checking it out. It's very much worth a visit. Thanks for watching.
Don't forget to like, share, comment on this video, and please subscribe to this channel.